Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
Or should I say, hey, Barbie.
Let's go party.
Okay, I thought you were gonna call me Ken. God, Gavin.
No. Do you look at yourself and you see Ken?
Not enough Kenergy?
Yeah. I don't think you're enough.
Wow, drag me to fucking hell. Here on this very day, America and beyond, you heard it first. I've been hate crimed.
And by that, you're specifically speaking to America Ferrera.
Exactly.
Our one listener, America Ferrera.
My goddess, America Ferrera. I was just on Hulu and I noticed that, like, it's suggesting Ugly Betty. And I'm like, are the girlies now, like, excited and watching Ugly Betty because America Ferrera's in Barbie?
Do you think it has to do anything with that Netflix show, which I don't want to say ripoff because I don't even remember the name of it.
Okay.
But there's that Netflix show with Kim Cattrall and the nice young...
Glamorous.
Glamorous. Thank you.
Yes.
And every time I see an ad for it, I'm just like, this is just Ugly Betty. This is like queer Ugly Betty.
I haven't seen Glamorous, but it's Ugly Betty. I'll watch it now.
Well, yeah, because isn't the lead like gets an assistant is an assistant to like a high price fashion person. It's a little Ugly Betty. It's a little Devil Wears Prada.
Okay. It's a little
Fergie. Where the Twain meets.
It's a little Fergie.
It's a little Fergie. It's a little bit country. It's a little bit rock and roll.
Hey. Love that. Welcome, everyone, to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject, such as an actor, director, or a mini genre. We take some amount of time. And we
Who can ever be sure?
Yeah, you'll never know. And we do a bunch of research, and then we come back, and we tell you all about our subject, and we tell you what we don't like and what we do like.
For this episode, I watched a couple documentaries.
Oh, nice. I love a good doc moment.
I love a good doc. I love when our subjects have a lot of good academia on them.
Yes.
And today's subject, there's a lot. So I'm excited to get into it. But before we do that, we know it's been a while. But it's the dog days of summer, babe, okay?
Yeah.
And we're barking.
Warm out.
And we are barking.
I feel like I've been saying it's warm out for the last 7-8 episodes. Literally, the earth is on fire.
We are melting
every day. So yeah. It's okay though. Personal responsibility, everybody.
Yeah,
not large corporations.
Please close those fridges. Please close those fridges. Our last episode, we talked about the one, the only Miss Anna Paquin, and we asked you guys to go online and vote for your favorite movie. And here are the results. In a stunning last place. X-Men with 9%. I guess the girlies were not going rogue for rogue.
Yeah, I feel like somebody took off their glove, touched that choice, sucked all the votes out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. In a surprise third place, Fly Away Home with 15%.
We have a very millennial audience.
Yeah, you guys saw this in class the same way that me and Gavin did. The Piano, which was my pick, came in at second place with 33%. And in first place, the Movie Snobs won. Gavin, this round goes to you. Margaret with 42%.
Listen, if you ever want to see a prolonged scene of someone dying slowly after being hit by a New York City bus,
Here
cinema,
it
baby,
is.
cinema.
Wait, and who's the person who dies? It's a famous actress.
It's it's
Allison Janney.
Thank you, Allison Janney, America's favorite, Allison Janney.
Yes, casual. She showed up to die on a screen and never returned. But yes, Margaret. You know, I was a little mixed. The reviews were a little mixed on Margaret for me, but I think it speaks to Anna Paquin's range, really. She has such a kooky little canon of movies, from blockbusters to weird indie things to some real snoozers, is what I'll say on that.
Yeah.
But also, Girly is a child star. She is my favorite child actress. Take that. Though, I was talking on the Discord earlier. I recently watched Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. That child actress was incredible.
I'm excited to see it. I've been meaning to see it, and I just haven't been able to make the time yet.
All of the girlies that they cast in that movie, like, And literally, I mean, like the children, like the teens.
You mean like literal girlies?
Literal girlies, and then also Kathy Bates and Rachel McAdams, who are icons. But yes, so Anna Paquin, thank you so much. We really enjoyed having you, Miss Bicon, for our Pride episode.
But we do have to tell you to go tell to the bees.
Girl, you better go tell to the fucking bees. Buzz, honey. Oh, you couldn't get a ticket to go see Beyonce? Go tell to the bees.
Go tell to the bees.
Okay, but don't see that movie like that. No one needs to see that movie.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I did make a promo video for that one specifically because we cut some stuff out because we talked about that movie for a long time, and I'm like, maybe I'll release that one. Maybe I won't.
I think it's because we were astounded by like. The movies are so jarring, like the bees, the fake bees.
So many fake bees.
And that little boy said, "I got a secret, Buzz." Anyway, let's close the chapter on Anna Paquin. We live, we laugh, we love. Justice for Rogue. Gavin, tell the girlies who we are talking about today.
We are talking about the screen legend, the goddess of love herself, Margarita Cameron Concino, also known as Rita Hayworth.
Miss Rita Hayworth. My goodness, Gavin.
Yeah.
There are certain episodes we do where it's just like the beauty, the glamour, the magnetism of the star power is just so insane. And this episode is definitely one of those. Obviously me and Gavin took a little more time on this episode. I was traveling. There's a lot going on, but I'm so glad we didn't try and rush it because this was a very hard episode for me to like. I wasn't hunting for 1-star reviews, but like every episode, even like bad movies or like not as good movies, I'm like, my goodness, she is just like a luminous, gorgeous, beyond talented.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes you talk about actor dancers. She is the original. She is the blueprint.
And it's so interesting to watch someone the camera loves so much. And I'm not out here trying to like anthropomorphize cameras, but it does when she's on screen. It radiates, it sparkles. She has that magnetism. There are some people that truly don't, and yet we still keep giving them movies. Timothée Chalamet, and for some reason,
from my Wonka.
Just get that chocolate out of here. We must kill that Oompa Loompa. But anyways, Rita Hayworth, though, is so gorgeous. So, like, you truly understand why she earned that nickname, the Love Goddess, because she can make you fall in love with her with just a glance.
Yeah. And she also, though, what I realized, I think I'd seen Strawberry Blonde because we did it for our Olivia de Havilland movie or episode. Yeah. I hadn't seen literally anything else. And it's just like, you think she's going to be one thing. She's known as the love goddess, this bombshell. So you think you're going to get a va-va-voom, Marilyn type, persona. And she does do that. Like, she is a femme fatale. But then she's so funny in other movies. She's very funny in Strawberry Blonde. Yeah. She also is like so tragic and like dramatic and passionate. That woman has chemistry for days, honey. Oh, you need some? She has extra for everybody.
Yeah. She has more chemistry than a chemistry set. Periodic Table said, never heard of her.
Never heard of her. She's quaking in her boots for Miss Rita Hayworth. Were you familiar with Rita's work?
Yes, but not in a large extent. For some reason, earlier this year specifically, I had watched her 2 Fred Astaire movies. Okay. And I really loved one of them and really did not like the other, funny enough. Okay. But I'd mostly known her from Gilda. I saw Gilda years and years ago. In fact, I really sort of count this rewatch for this episode as kind of like my first time because it's been over 15 years since I saw Gilda. But I knew she was this, gorgeous, seductive, that she could land a line without any. I mean, there's scenes in Gilda where she's just like shooting arrows directly at her co-star. And but other than that, like, you know, maybe these 3 films, I hadn't really seen her in much. I hadn't even seen Howard Hawks' Only Angels Have Wings, which is a Cary Grant film, and we've done a Cary Grant episode.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of a major blind spot for me. I knew, you know, the stories about her, and I obviously the most famous quote of hers, the "men go to bed with Gilda and wake up with me," which I think most people our age actually know from Notting Hill, because Julia Roberts says it in that movie. And yeah, so I was really excited to do this episode because I was like, oh, well, there's going to be a lot of things that are new to me, and a lot of things I haven't seen before. And so I'm really happy we were able to like kind of dig deep, because also her real life was just kind of endless tragedy after endless tragedy.
Yeah, marked with tragedy.
She I think she was a person with a lot of love to give, and unfortunately that love went to a lot of not great people.
Yeah, I think certainly the horrors of being a woman in Hollywood at this time period, the horrors of, even for like, literally she is half Irish, half Spanish, is a white woman, but like still too exotic to like be all American.
I mean, the things they did to her to turn her into a leading lady, and we'll get there, but
yeah. So I you're right. She was a natural performer, so charismatic, and the things that she had to do to just be the star that she already was is insane. Yeah. That being said, why don't we jump into our rewind? Rita was born as Margarita Carmen Cancino. She was born in Brooklyn. Her parents were dancers. And like, not just any dancers, like they were fully vaudevillian follies dancers. They were pro dancer characters. And she said, you know, ever since she could basically stand on her feet, she was in class. She was taking, you know, some sort of dancing class. She said she didn't even fucking like it. You know, It was just something that she did.
I had been studying dancing since I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, 8. And I could dance, and I danced with my father. I had a fine teacher.
And because it was such a familial thing, her mom was also an actress. Her dad was really like the big pro. Her grandfather was a renowned classical Spanish dancer. You know, like he literally popularized the bolero, which is like one of the standard, you know, like Spanish dances now that we all recognize.
Huge in ballroom.
Yes, exactly. You know, so she went to dance classes every day at Carnegie Hall. Before her 5th birthday, she was already featured in Broadway. On fucking like the Winter Garden. The Winter Garden Theater, where you can go see Back to the Future right now on Broadway. Rita was there first.
Former home of Rocky the Musical. Very long time home of Cats.
Cats, yes, correct.
What a legacy the Winter Garden has.
The Winter Garden, wow. I still just love that name. It's so like, I don't know, kind of sexy, kind of like mysterious.
Because I grew up in New York, but not the city portion, but I remember on TV, there would always be the commercial for Cats, the like,
yeah.
And it'd be like, at the Winter Garden, now and forever.
Ooh.
Guess forever came too soon.
Yeah, I'll show you my Winter Garden. So at 8 years old, she was featured in a short film for Warner Brothers as a dancer. She was this like little dancing diva of New York. Yeah. Since she was 5, you know, like professionally booking jobs.
Now the bad side of this is that she wasn't going to school. She was literally in dance classes. She'd be in the show at noon, be in dance classes for the rest of the day, and then the show in the evening. She wasn't allowed to play with the other kids. And when she did have the opportunity to like socialize, she would basically sit apart from watching her brother play with all these other kids. And so she was kind of this lonely, shy child, except for when she hit the stage.
Right. Gavin mentioned she has two brothers, I believe.
Yes.
She's the eldest of three. In 1927, her dad is like, we're going to fucking go to Hollywood.
I began to work when I was 12 years old. 4 shows a day, sometimes as late as 2 in the morning. I never complained, for even in those early years, I liked to work.
There was depression at that time. And so when we needed money, I worked with my father at the age of 13 at a place in Tijuana. My mother was there, and my 2 brothers were with me. I did 4 shows a day, 2 in the afternoon and 2 in the evening, and in between the shows, I went to my tutor and had my lessons. Our next job was working on a gambling boat called the Rex out of Long Beach. And it was kind of a gambling boat. It was a terrible thing.
So he moved to LA, took the entire family, and established his own dance studio where literally he was teaching people like James Cagney and Jean Harlow how to dance. Like, he became ingrained in the Hollywood system to teach, stars how to dance in movies. At this moment, Rita is 12 years old.
Yeah.
Her father decides that he's going to have like an act called the Dancing Casinos. He dyes her hair jet black and basically sexes her up.
Yeah.
Matures her, ages her up, makes her, really leans into her quote unquote Latin appearance, to really exoticize her. The casinos were, from Spain and, fiery. And it's basically like, it's using every stereotype to further themselves in the industry. They were going to be the Spanish dancers in Hollywood. Because she was too young to actually work in LA, her dad would take them down to Mexico and Tijuana, and they would play in bars there.
And riverboat casinos.
And literally, people would ask all the time, is that your wife, sister, daughter? And he would be like, lol, I don't know. It's like crazy. We're so mysterious. And would really play up the sexual chemistry, seems like the wrong word, but play up the like.
Right. And
he was not like, this is my daughter, isn't she lovely? It was, we are just a pair, and who knows?
There's a lot more darkness there, so trigger warning, sexual assault.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Her father would often get drunk and gamble away the money that they would spend. According to Barbara Leeming, who was her biographer, he would get angry at her and beat her, but never in the face, because that's would be visible. And later she confided to Orson Welles, according to Leeming, that her father had sexually assaulted her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like it was, his like ruse was even darker than I think people, thought.
Right. And he was absolutely using her as a sex object, both literally and as like this cover up for, this act. He wanted men to, look at his daughter in a sexual manner. And on top of that, he was assaulting her sexually, which is horrifying, for such a young woman to have to deal with that. And this is the beginning of like, she eventually wants to escape her father. She's like, I can't. Well, I guess I'm jumping ahead, but as part of a, dancing in Mexico, Tijuana had a bunch of clubs that were really popular tourist destinations for people in LA. And so she was dancing at Club Caliente, I believe it was called, or the Caliente Club. And Winfield Sheehan, who was the head of Fox, was there and saw her and said, "Oh my God." And he said, "I want to, let's do a screen test for you and get you signed on." So he signed her to a 6-month contract under the name Rita Cansino. So she, did a lot of small tip spots was very just like exotic foreign girl. She danced,
Right.
in a lot of them. Her first speaking role was as an Argentinian girl in Under the Pampas Moon in 1935. She played an Egyptian girl in Charlie Chan in Egypt, a Russian dancer.
I'm sure it's Charlie Chan in Egypt, just the most sensitive
Yes.
film.
100%. Yeah, God. Let's do Egypt and Chinese, and it's 1935. I think it's going to be really, really groundbreaking. So Sheehan was grooming her for the lead role in 1936's Ramona, and he wanted to establish her as a new star.
I didn't start out as a star. I started out in small roles, very small roles when I was very, very young, until I I guess, you see, I didn't become a star overnight.
Unfortunately, Fox Studios merges with 20th Century, so Sheehan's out. New guy's like, fuck Rita Cancino.
Daryl F. Zanuck, history's classic good guy.
He said, fuck her. And he did not renew her contract.
Yeah.
So she's kind of out again. And she's still Rita Cancino. She still like hasn't transformed into Rita Hayworth that we know. But so there is this man. I don't know too much about this fucking man except that he doesn't sound like a great person. Edward C. Judson.
I was going to say, are we talking about Edward C. Judson?
Yes.
I think I know as much about him as you probably do.
He, is a salesman. He's, a huckster. He senses that like Rita has this magnetism, this star quality. But he's like, I think you're a little too foreign, a little too exotic, a little too not white enough, essentially. And he decides, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, because he's charming, and he's like nice to Rita. She's like, oh, maybe this is the way out from my father. Because her father was so controlling. Not only was he assaulting her, he was not allowing her to like have friends, go out. She was an object to him. So she elopes with Mr. Judson, and under his, mentorship or whatever, he's like, let's change your hair color. Gone is the black hair. They dye it ginger red. They also decide to fully move her hairline back through like electrolysis.
Yeah, at least a couple inches too, nonetheless. And it was very painful for her.
Right. If you see old pictures of her, she has kind of a widow's peak.
Yeah.
And she's still gorgeous, but after they move her hairline back, it is flattened out. She has a much larger forehead. It's kind of like how drag queens make a bigger canvas space for all of their glamour. And he decides, Cancino is too much of an exotic name. So they decide to change her name to Hayworth, which was her mother's maiden name. And thus Rita Hayworth is born.
What is there to say about Edward C. Judson? Orson Welles once referred to him, and we'll get to Orson Welles in a moment because he was one of her most famous relationships. Orson Welles once said Edward C. Judson was a pimp, and he was basically on his campaign to make Rita Hayworth a star, selling her out to whoever would help her rise the ladder. And, that's not a pretty picture. Once again, that's Orson Welles' take on him. But it is known that she was living in an apartment at one point with no furniture because Judson had sold all of it in an attempt to pay for the things that would make her a star. So I think whatever can be said about him, he saw her as an investment.
Yeah,
which is a commodity, exactly, which is not a ton better than her own father.
Right. This is another man who decided to use her for fame, fortune, glory, all the things. We've said this many times in this podcast. People are more important than art. Rita is an icon. And yes, she fucking had to struggle and went through hell and back to be the icon we know today. But like, if this woman could have not gone through any of this hell and she didn't become famous, then like that would have been a better life, period. Like, and she deserves that.
Yeah.
She deserved to not be used by men, both like as a commodity, as a sexual target, like 100%.
And like, obviously, you know, there's a hypothetical situation is just a hypothetical situation in the end. Part of me wonders, like, if she hadn't been famous, she might have even been happier, because it seemed like, and we're going to get there obviously much later, but it seems like much later in her life, when she wasn't working, when she could get away from work, she was really happy. And so like, but that's all she ever knew. And so like, obviously, if all you ever know is constant work, of course. Yeah. But also there's these, to quote you, men.
Very that. Speaking of men, Harry Cohn, who is the executive or the head, the co-founder and president of Columbia Pictures.
Yes.
He signs her to a 7-year contract and tries her on small roles. Once he sees this transformation, he's like, okay, here we go.
Perhaps the most important lesson they made me learn was that I had to get my name and face in front of the public. In a way, this kind of life clashed with my personality, because I've always been extremely shy. Yet all the while, I've always been very ambitious. So time and again, I forced myself to do these things. It was all part of my job. There was talk now that I might actually become a star. And to me, it was only natural to want to be as big and as successful a star as I could.
But also the tawdry little quirk of this is essentially Judson had sent her to have sex with Larry Cohn, and she was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this man. And so even though he does, for some reason, recognize the star quality, probably because it's fully undeniable in her, he knows, if I don't take her and make her a star, somebody else will. But he also carries this lifelong grudge against her because he can never have her.
Right.
Men!
Yeah. And her relationship with Columbia, which was her, like, so Columbia becomes her playground. Like,
yes.
And it's a very love-hate relationship both ways. She appears in minor pictures. At the time, Columbia wasn't like the big guy in town at all.
Yeah, they were very much a lot of B movies, a lot of secondary features. And we've talked about like A movies and B movies before. A movies being like let's say like you go see Barbie this weekend. If A and B picture still exists, you might also get to see Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken. And that's...
You think a DreamWorks picture is a B movie?
I mean, it's already on Paramount Plus, so it did not do well.
Yikes, girl. Wow.
But, so, like, that's how an A-B picture sort of worked. And so, she would be starring in these B movies. I just said B a lot. I'm really telling it to the B's.
You really are, Gavin.
And also, the studio system. And we've talked about this before. Back in the day, actors literally worked for studios. They would sign picture deals. They owed these studios this many amount of films.
Yeah.
And so that's really what she was hoping for, because she's already experienced the 6-month contract loss with 20th Century Fox, is getting like a main feature with Columbia. But I mean, it sounds like this Columbia contract was very ironclad.
Yeah. So her big break is in 1939 in Only Angels Have Wings. Cohn is that? Yeah, Cohn. Cohn is like pushing for this director to be like, can you just put her in a supporting role? Like, please. And so he does. It's Only Angels Have Wings. Such a dramatic title, first of all. It's a movie about... So Cary Grant stars... Yeah, so it's an aviation movie in South America. They're in a port town sending goods hither and thither. And flying is crazy at the time, guys, because it's the fucking 30s and it's so dangerous. And guess what? Only angels have wings. Think about that.
She plays an ex-lover who is also married to the bad boy rival who Pilot who like can't hold down a job, and so Cary Grant's gonna give him a dangerous mission to like prove himself. And then Jean Arthur's also there.
Jean Arthur, who I don't know anything about, but she's great in it. I think she's a natural. I think, I mean, obviously Cary Grant's a fucking natural. I was like, okay, kiss me.
He wanted to, don't worry.
Yeah, I thank God, someone. But to Rita, you know, it's a smaller part, but I bring up how good both Cary and Jean are to say that, like, she's just as good. Like,
she really is.
She's immediately so radiant, and she has the task of being like, surprise, bitch. Bet you thought you'd seen the last of me. But then also, you know, lamenting loss and like how, I mean, a lot of this movie is just about how women are scared of their husbands flying and dying because how scary it is. I will say about this movie, love all the practical effects. I was like, this is really good work for, like, you know, back in the day, you could tell they were using models, but it looks really good.
I will say the stuff in between the practical effects I found a little dull. I was like,
correct.
I was like, we're still talking about doing stuff.
I was like, I don't understand what the main conflict is here. It just seems like every mission is dangerous and we shouldn't do it.
But I will say Howard Hawks did, he didn't love Rita. And, you know, they did a couple takes of the scene where she's drunk and he's like, she can't act drunk. So he's like, Cary, you know, I want you to pour water into her hair and rough her up a bit. And so that was like a actual shock to her. And I gotta say, I was like watching it, I was like, yeah, she looks pretty shocked. She actually doesn't look like she likes that very much.
Yeah, I remember that scene. She's like screaming.
Yeah.
You know, I used to wonder if I was right when we broke up. Well, I don't have to worry about it anymore.
What did I do?
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? Well, you've got some listening to do, and I'm going to make sure you hear every word of it.
Oh, shut up! I was terrified. I mean, I didn't have that much experience working with superstars such as Cary Grant was and Jean Arthur. I call superstars because they were, you know, and are. I mean, they will always be in that sense, you see.
After that movie, you know, she begins building up more of a relationship with Cohn, who kind of is shepherding her through these beginning stages of her career at Columbia. I don't know if you watched any of these, Gavin. Music in My Heart, The Lady in Question, Angels Over Broadway.
I actually watched all three of those.
How do you feel about these next three films?
I did not like Music in My Heart. I was not a fan of Lady in Question. And Angels Over Broadway I thought was really cute. They're all like kind of cute. Like Music in My Heart is a musical. Lady in Question's like a courtroom comedy. Like she's acquitted of murder at the beginning, and then a man
it's liar.
Yeah. And a man gives her a job in his bicycle store, and that was on the jury, and she like falls in love with his son, and it's like will he find out that she was this accused murderess even though she was acquitted. His son is also played by Glenn Ford, which is the first pairing of Glenn Ford. They would go on to star in 4 movies together.
Yes.
And have a basically 40-year affair.
There you go. 1941 is a big year for her. Starts off with The Strawberry Blonde, which we talked about in our Olivia de Havilland episode. I texted you. I was like, you know what? I'm fucking watching this again because I remember loving it so much. And I still love this movie.
It's very cute. It's so cute.
It's so cute. It is the blueprint for so many rom-coms. I was just, again, shocked at, like, we are still having movies where, like, there's the girlie who's like, love is bad. And then the other girlie who's like, I love love.
Yeah, I love everyone.
Yeah. And so Rita plays the girlie who loves love. And the scene that will just like forever be imprinted in my brain is them like waiting for the boys in the park.
Yes.
And she's like, oh no, like, what do you mean? Like, you don't even know these men and they're just coming to meet you. And she's like, no, I just told them that, I might be in the park and who knows?
Amy. Yes, dear? If there's something in your eye, Amy, I'll help you get it out.
Oh, bosh, there's nothing in my eye. I just plain and simple winked at him, that's all.
No, Amy. Either he's an old friend of the family's or there's something in your eye.
I never saw him before in my life until a few minutes ago when I passed Fisher's drugstore.
Oh, Amy, he followed you here?
No. I followed him.
Oh, Amy.
It's just so funny. She is very, very good. It's Crazy Town, again, that Olivia de Havilland has to play, like, the dumpy, frumpy, like, ugly girl.
I know.
It's like, hello, Alexa? But I do love... Again, she's just very funny in this movie. I think she ends up with her partner who is, like, her affair turns out to be, like, a bust. He sucks. And she just, like, loves laughing at him in the end. So Strawberry Blonde is great.
Is she not the titular Strawberry Blonde? Isn't she?
She is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say, it's actually not Olivia de Havilland. It's her. That's the Strawberry Blonde. Yeah.
She is the Strawberry Blonde, but I guess the gag is that, like, sometimes the Strawberry Blondes aren't the sweet ones, Also,
a life lesson.
Mm-hmm. Also, though, I mean, we talked about this last time, but, like, the movie is, I'm like, wow, so progressive. And at the very end, they're like, just kidding. She doesn't smoke and she does want marriage. All that stuff she said earlier was just for lulz.
Yeah, truly.
This year, she also, before we get to her next movie, she poses in an iconic life photo, which movies obviously are a big part of culture, but like when you can penetrate the cultural zeitgeist outside of your movie, like then we've got something cooking.
Right.
She poses for Life magazine. She's wearing this like black lace negligee and she's giving a little over the shoulder action.
And she's on her bed.
Yes. And P.S. the fucking war, the World War, ever heard of it, has started. And this is...
That one. The second one.
Uh-huh.
The second.
The Terminator 2, the second one. This picture becomes the pinup, like, that everyone, all the soldiers want. Like, around the world, like, she is the number one selling poster.
Right.
All the men are looking at her, like, if I can go home to my beautiful, beautiful girlies, just like Rita back home. And so she is now not just blasting off in movies. She is, like, I hate to use this reference, but like she's kind of like becoming like the Kim Kardashian, like,
oh, wow.
where people, people just like know her.
I hate
like
you for doing that.
I know, I'm sorry. And just to say, like, Kim Kardashian's famous for being famous. And like
right.
in this moment before, like, because Rita hasn't had her signature movie yet,
Right.
So she, in this moment, is becoming famous for movies, but also is just like, whoa, this is someone who is fulfilling this fantasy, and like these poor fucking soldiers who are out dying during the war are just like, that's what they got in their wallet. That same year, she stars, she goes back to Columbia. She was on loan to Warner Brothers to do Strawberry Blonde. So she goes back to Columbia, and she does You'll Never Get Rich, opposite casually Fred Astaire. I saw You'll Never Get Rich. It's a musical comedy. She's cute. I don't remember it like leaving too much of a lasting impression on me.
I'm trying to remember which is which of the ones I really liked and the one I truly didn't. But it is funny, Fred Astaire, famous dancing partner Ginger Rogers. That's what everybody thinks of.
Right.
But he said, in his lifetime, his favorite dance partner was Rita Hayworth. And it's because Ginger Rogers knew the steps, but Rita Hayworth was the one that was free in her movements. And that was a huge, huge thing for him, was being able to have a partner that like really reacted to the music. And, and so I think like,
Shania Twain said it best. So you got the moves, but do you have the touch? And Rita had the moves and the fucking touch, okay?
You'll Never Get Rich is the one I didn't like.
Right, yeah. So this one is the one where, like, he's a choreographer and she's like this headstrong dancer. It's kind of like a comedy of errors type thing. But yeah, I didn't really find the narrative compelling.
Yeah.
Really like no impression of this movie except that like they have beautiful dancers.
The beautiful gowns, beautiful dancing, beautiful gowns.
Yeah. It at the time was one of the highest budgeted films Columbia had ever made, and it was very, very successful. So they teamed up again the next year for You Were Never Lovelier, which I'm assuming you liked, actually.
Yes, I did. And You Were Never Lovelier is, it's also sort of a comedy of errors, but she's an heiress and she falls in love with this American dancer who is like secretly in love with her as well, and it's cute, but it also has some of like, that was the movie that I was just like, oh my god, this dancing, I was like, this is gorgeous.
You don't know my kind of life.
Well, it's music and dancing, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, we love your North American music and dances down here.
Oh, but imagine a man like me having to dance for a living.
I can't imagine a happier way to earn one.
You know, there's a great weakness in my character. I'm a sucker for a horse race.
They thrill me, too.
Oh, but I'd probably bet my last cent on a horse. As a matter of fact, I did.
I have a gambler's heart myself. You know, I think that's why your notes intrigue me so.
Look, little lady, as they'd say in Brooklyn, I can't bat in your league.
I didn't get to like obviously every movie, but like I was watching clips and I was like, there's just so much innate beauty in these films.
Yeah.
I think there is something really wonderful about, watching these old movies, especially the ones where they were giving a lot of effort and budget and so many people were working on. Like, you can tell the craftsmanship of the costumes, the sets, the practical effects. I think, like, I hate to be topical, but I think that's why people are responding to Barbie a lot also.
Yes.
It's
100% yes.
It's because, it's not just pixels. It's human work. It's craftsmanship from like the acting and dancing and like singing to the textures and the color. Like, it's gorgeous.
And even like, I think Barbie is the prime example. It just made like $160 million in one weekend, unheard of.
Yeah.
But, like even something like Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, which is a movie like thematically I didn't necessarily connect with because I didn't actually think it had a lot to say, but I know other people have read a lot into it. But visually, like everything from, just these trains that are actually model trains essentially, or there's a Roadrunner in it that's actually just a marionette, and it's these tactile things that are not these CG creations. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's, and obviously like Rita herself is 100% her own best special effect. She's doing all those dances, she's running all over the place in these dresses, shaking her hair out, moving her hips, and it's impossible to look away from.
It's crazy how she invented flipping her hair.
She truly did.
She invented flipping her
Nobody
hair.
did it before her.
No one. She had curls for days, the smile, the look. She has like a little sneak thing about her that's just so magnetic. Anyway, so her peak, after these Fred Astaire movies, after the Life photograph, she is at the top of her cultural capacity. In 1944, she does CoverGirl.
Yes.
Put the bass in your walk.
Head to toe, let that whole body talk.
Uh-huh.
A CoverGirl is one of two movies that are connected to our previous subject, Olivia Newton-John's film, Xanadu. Because CoverGirl stars Gene Kelly playing the same character that he would go on to play in Xanadu.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Nuts.
A sequel 40 years in the making.
And she's one of the few leading ladies to have danced both with Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire.
I think there was 6 altogether. And it's funny, late in life, she was asked, what were the jewels of her life? And she said, the pictures I made with Fred Astaire and CoverGirl. So
There you go. Yeah. Again, like it's just a beautiful movie. Like everything is just beautiful. I mean, obviously, like the movie is about a woman trying to be on the cover of a magazine, and so
it's like plot wise very silly, but just gorgeous, sumptuous, and just the tricks that we're trying. And this has nothing to do with Rita Hayworth, but there's a scene where Gene Kelly dances with himself, and it's so well done. Like this CoverGirl is sort of people talk about Singing in the Rain as being one of the greatest movies ever made. CoverGirl feels like Gene Kelly's trial run.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was like in Technicolor, so it's just like blasting like onto your eyeballs.
I love Technicolor. As a colorblind person, nothing is more sumptuous to me than Technicolor.
Yeah, does it feel like it's real like velvety?
Oh yeah, it is. It's like that. It's just like warmth and like a hug.
So every time you're late, Maureen goes in. She might as well get up in it because the way it's going, it looks like she'll end up doing it. You see, to Maureen, this place comes first.
You've hated it ever since I got to be a cover girl, haven't you, Danny? You want to be the big shot.
There isn't any room in Danny McGuire's for any big shot.
If you don't want me here, why don't you say so? If I'm messing up your precious little place, why don't you say so? I've got someplace to go. I'm not dependent on...
Why don't you go, then?
For 3 consecutive years, Rita is named one of the top movie box office attractions in the world. She's P.S. I mean, we talked about this. She is dancing the house down in all of these movies. It feels like every chance Cohn could get to get her to dance in movies, he was like, let's do it.
And hey, like it wasn't just one style. She's not just doing Spanish routines. She's doing ballet. She's doing tap. She's doing other forms of ballroom. She's really just laying it all out there. She's leaving it on the dance floor.
Yeah. The next 3 films. So I didn't watch Tonight and Every Night. Did you?
I did. It's an odd movie. It is.
Okay.
It's a war movie. It's about a theater that, like a not burlesque because it's a movie from 1945, but kind of like a vaudeville theater that manages to stay open during the London Blitz. And she falls in love with an army man, and she kind of thinks that he's like not as interested in her, but it turns out he's like away on a secret mission. And there's a male dancer who auditions and then falls in love with her, and there's this really weird sequence where that starts with him tap dancing to opera, which I'd never seen before, and I really enjoyed it, but then switches to him doing like a modern dance to one of Hitler's speeches, and I was like,
Jesus, what?
I was like, I don't know if I like this. Anyways, he falls in love with her as well, and when she turns him down, he falls in love with another dancer, but don't worry, they get punished because a bomb drops on them.
Sure, yeah, and that's wartime entertainment, folks.
I was like, who is this movie for?
So that's 1945. 1946 is the movie. Gilda. So Tonight and Every Night is in Technicolor. Yes. Gilda is not.
Gilda's a film noir, stark black and white. It's funny. There's the famous scene, you were just referencing it, where her introductory scene in the film is her name is said, and she flips her hair
Flip your goddamn hair. Lucy Liu is in the background saying, Gilda, flip your goddamn hair.
Gilda, are you decent?
Me? Sure, I'm decent.
It's wild because I had seen the like GIF. I'd seen in retrospectives. They always show this like Hollywood glamour.
Which one have you seen? Because it was shot. It was shot twice, and sometimes it's the black satin dress, and sometimes it's like a polka dot top. And the one that's
the black one, I think.
I was gonna say the one that's in the movie is the black dress because she's wearing the black dress at the scene. But yeah, they filmed that scene twice for some reason.
In the movie, it's very quick, and I think it's because censors were really not happy with this movie. It was quite titillating for the time. So she plays the titular Gilda.
Yes.
The movie opens and it's like enormous letters like Rita Hayworth, and then somehow in even bigger letters Gilda. she is this woman who is married to like a mob boss. She has left her husband back in New York. They're in Argentina, I believe.
Argentina, yep.
And her mob boss guy owns the casino, a casino down there. Little does she know that her husband is now, or her ex is now in Argentina. He ends up getting hired by the mob boss to fucking run the casino. And then she's like, oh, is it you? Well, and it's this cat and mouse, but also just like very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's basically
they're so horny for hating each other.
Yes, they're like, do you hate me? How much do you hate me?
Show me how much you hate me.
It's so horny, but it's also very like fucking sad because they are trying to actually hurt each other in any way they can.
This is her second picture with Glenn Ford, previously mentioned. Yeah, but this is the first one that they like actually kind of fall in love on and like start their back and forth.
She famously has this striptease, Put the Blame on Mame.
Yeah.
For which I don't. A lot of people died in the San Francisco earthquake, and I just don't know how I felt about like a little song and dance number about it. But okay, I guess.
But just put the blame on Mame.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is she like, I'm putting this in air quotes for those of you not watching. She sings in a lot of her movies. The sad fact is she doesn't sing in any of her movies. She is an incredibly talented lip syncer. And
she sent all the girls home.
Yeah, absolutely. She, not that it matters anymore.
Right.
Anyways, you can still win the game without winning the final lip sync. I'm just saying. But you know, so, but it wasn't for lack of trying. She wanted to learn to sing. And that was one of those things that like hate relationship she had going on with Larry Cohn, where she would be like, hey, let's do music lessons. And he was like, we'll do it later. And they just never did it.
Or he'd be like, what for? Who cares? We can dub it. Yeah, and she was always embarrassed because she would go on USO tours and they would ask her to sing and she was like, fuck my life. You know. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to like overstate the cultural impact that Gilda has. This movie was one of the movies that they would play for soldiers. And again, just like that hair flip, she's a lot in negligees in this movie. She's a femme fatale. The cultural impact is so great that they were putting pictures of, I believe, on an atomic bomb that went off.
So on the fourth atomic bomb that we ever tested or set off, tested at Bikini Atoll in the Pacific Ocean,
there was a picture.
It carried a picture of Rita Hayworth and had her name on it. She is with Orson Welles at this time. Little personal life nonsense. She divorces Judson in 42. She meets Orson Welles in 43. Orson Welles famously sees that life picture of her. He's been out of the country. He comes back into the country, sees that picture of her, and he says, I'm going to marry that woman.
Orson Welles, their pairing to me is such like freak art boy and like and hot cheerleader girl. You know, like it's this.
He's cute. Young Orson Welles is good looking.
I'm not saying he's not cute, but he's a fucking freak.
Yeah,
he's like smarty pants boy, like, you know, and she's the hottest girl in class, and so it's an iconic pairing. Like,
yeah,
we
absolutely.
stand. But yeah.
So he's in a relationship with her, and it's very contentious. He is fucking around any chance he gets, which is deranged because he literally has Rita Hayworth at home. And she's not having it. They have a daughter together, Rebecca Wells, and, you know, they decide to try and make it work, and then they're not going to make it work regardless. The point I'm trying to make since we're talking about the atomic bomb, is Orson Welles said, you know, Rita Hayworth could get mad, and he would often see her fly into a rage, but he never saw her fly into rage as much as when she found out that they had put her picture on an atomic bomb to set it off. And she
to be clear, the reason why they did that is because she was a bombshell.
Yes. And she did not care that it was a tribute. She did not find it flattering at all. She was so mad that this literal destruction device, this, thing that people truly believed could end the earth, would carry her visage. She threw stuff. She, broke things. She told him she wanted to march down to Washington and hold a press conference, and Harry Cohn wouldn't let her. She thought this was some publicity stunt that he had cooked up, and she basically had to be talked down and be like, that this wasn't, this was their tribute, and it has nothing to do with you or anybody else.
Right. Yeah, but again, it's just like, these are things that are happening outside of the world of movies to her,
Yeah.
She is becoming so famous, like it is people, literally people are memeing her, in the fucking 40s, putting her on bombs, because she was the quintessential bombshell. In 47, she has 2 big movies come out. She has Down to Earth, which is a sequel to what the fuck is the other movie? Here Comes Mr. Jordan.
Yes. But also, it is the movie that Xanadu is a remake of.
And also, didn't we talk the not Eddie Murphy, Chris
Rock has a movie called Down to Earth,
yes,
which is a remake of Here Comes Mr. Jordan, as well as Warren Beatty's.
Yeah.
What is the name of that movie? Now I can't think of the which also is the name of another movie. It's like too complicated. The web is too complicated.
Yes, we are going down the rabbit hole. All that to say, Down to Earth, I watched. I liked enough. It's a pretty movie. Very silly. She plays Terpsichore, or is it Terpsichore? Terpsichore. That's how she pronounces it. Terpsichore. She's a muse. And she is so mad at this director who is making a play about her and the muses. It's not her at all.
I don't mind telling you, I've been kind of bullheaded and stubborn myself.
Oh, but you have a right to be. After all, what do I know about the theater? And as you said, I'm just a little nobody you took out of the chorus.
Oh, I don't know. You've had a couple of pretty good ideas.
Now you're just being nice to me.
Heaven Can Wait is the Warren Beatty movie.
Wait. There it is.
We go.
Oh, right. This movie is interesting in that, like, there is a conversation here about, like, high art versus low art. And, which is interesting. And her as, like, the muse of whatever the fuck muse she is, of the goddess of dance and chorus.
Yes.
And she wants to, like, put on a very, high art show, but people are bored by high art, and it's a fun movie. Nothing too serious.
No, I think it's really colorful and very pretty and stunning to look at. But yeah, it's not Gilda.
Yeah, no. What's wild though is like her other movie of this year is The Lady from Shanghai, which is directed by Orson Welles.
And at this point, they have separated from each other. They are no longer a couple, but he is persona non grata when it comes to Hollywood, and he needs a Hollywood film. And she's like, fuck it, I'll be in your movie and we'll do this as kind of a couple. And he's like, great, I've got a plan for your hair.
Right. And also, I think at this point, though, because she is so overwhelmed and sick of all the bombshell stuff, she's also like, oh, you want to dye my hair and cut it all off? Great. It's time to rebrand. And it's wild because it's been 2 years. Like, it's literally... Right. So she... the lady from Shanghai is complicated, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
But just so everybody knows, like, he literally like invites the press to watch her get her luscious locks trimmed to a short haircut and bleached white blonde.
Yeah. Orson also stars in this movie. He is the protagonist.
He's doing the craziest Irish accent anybody has ever heard.
Yeah.
Like this side of Lucky Charms.
Wow.
I'm shipping out tomorrow.
So are we, to the west coast by way of the canal. We're short a man on the crew. I'll make it worth your while.
Could it be this you're looking for? You were smart to carry a gun, traveling alone in the park, but if you knew you had the gun in your bag, why throw away the bag?
I meant for you to find it. I don't know how to shoot.
It is a bomb.
Yes.
To be clear, you know, people do not want their blonde Rita. They do not want short hair Rita. It is a full Felicity moment.
That's a good reference.
Thank you. You know, I can't remember a lot from this movie, to be honest.
It's like very complicated.
Isn't he like, he's like up for murder, but like he didn't do it.
Right.
But...
It's like a staged murder. Her husband is like, I'm going to pay you to have pretended to murder me, but then he really does get killed, and it very much looks like Orson Welles did it, and you know, twists and turns, and there's this amazing sequence towards the end that takes place all in front of a bunch of funhouse mirrors.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
But the movie is very famous because, you know, it was supposed to be Orson Welles' big comeback, and then because he was an ill-tempered child, even though he was a genius, it's taken away from him again, and it's re-edited. And, you know, apparently the mirror sequence was supposed to take up close to like 15 minutes in the film, and it's 2 to 3 minutes survive.
Yeah, so, you know, it is not the hit for either of them. And again, you know, because of, like, I think fame is wearing on her. That famous quote you mentioned up top, you know, people want to go to bed with Gilda and they wake up with me. Like, she was like, I'm not this woman. I'm not a femme fatale. I'm not, you know, like this seductress. And she even said later in life, she's like, a lot of starlets from my era were doing like topless nudie movies. She's like, I never did that. Yes, I was a sensual dancer, you know, but I never really was, you know, like naked. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I don't care.
Right.
But the way she was sexualized so much, and it's that classic thing of like, you know, she never gave away it all, and somehow like people just kept wanting and demanding more and more and more from her, which I also think was why she wanted to rebrand and have her new hair.
But it doesn't last because nobody wants it.
People who don't know me frequently expect me to be like my screen image. But actually, I'm quite different from these women. I've always been rather amused when I'm described as a love goddess, because I've never especially felt like a love goddess. I feel like what I am, an actress and a mother.
You know, I don't want to be Gilda all my life. I mean, I feel I am an actress and I have talent, and I can do many other parts.
I guess we should also talk, at this time, she goes to Cannes and meets fucking Prince Ali Khan. Ali Khan, who is the Prince of Pakistan. And they begin a long courtship because her and Orson Welles break up. She also at this time is like, fuck Columbia, fuck Cone, I want to get out of here. And so she literally leaves Hollywood and goes to France, breaks her contract. And it's, again, like this, the level of fame is just astounding. She has a daughter with Prince Khan, Princess Yasmin Aga Khan. And she kind of like stops working for a little bit. Yeah. She's, you know, trying to learn French. She's trying to be this diplomat's wife, but it's just too difficult for her.
And the other thing is, you're speaking of being a diplomat's wife, she thought in leaving Hollywood, it would leave the fame behind.
Right.
But she is a famous person, and B, she has literally become a princess. She
Correct.
married a prince, and Prince Ali Khan was not.
He's a fuckboy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to stay out of the press. Like, this is what I'm, and so it's just not the life she wants. So she takes her kids, her 2 daughters, Rebecca and Yasmin, and she leaves. They go to New York, and then Prince Ali Khan and her reconcile briefly, but by 1953, it's donezo for them. I do want to mention one film right before the marriage, The Loves of Carmen, and I only want to mention it because it's her 3rd film with Glenn Ford. Yes. And it was a passion project of hers. And it's funny because it was, for all intents and purposes, an Orson Welles idea. Orson Welles was like, what if we do Carmen, but we base it off the story, we don't do the opera? And Harry Cohn was like, that sounds bad. And then when Orson Welles was out of the picture, Harry Cohn was like, let's do that Carmen movie you wanted to do. And she produces it with her production company, Beckworth Productions, which, was a huge deal that she had her own production company. It was named for her daughter, Rebecca, the daughter she had with Orson Welles. And Loves of Carmen is a huge hit. It becomes Columbia's biggest moneymaker of that year. And she received a percentage of the profits from this and her films that she continues to make until 54, which brings us to around the end of her marriage with Prince Ali Khan, when she ended up having to dissolve Beckworth to pay off debts. And that should tell you where she is as a person, because when she leaves Ali Khan and comes back to Hollywood, it's not because she wants to.
Right. They are not with open arms.
No.
Welcoming her back. She broke her contract. They were suing each other left and right because, she wouldn't do press for movies, whatever. She was essentially forced to return and to do her quote unquote comeback picture, Affair in Trinidad.
That's I believe her final film with Glenn Ford. Oh, I do also want to say, Glenn Ford's son wrote in his father's biography that when they made The Loves of Carmen, Glenn Ford actually did finally conceive a child with her, and she ended up having an abortion because she didn't want to have another child, especially not with somebody that she wasn't married to at the time. And then she gets married to Ali Khan and has another kid. So
fucking child.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Affair in Trinidad. Do you have anything to say about it?
It's not great. It literally feels like, I don't know. It's almost as if I was watching the Alfred Hitchcock film Notorious, which is my favorite Alfred Hitchcock film, and being like, what if I wrote Notorious? Because it's basically the same movie, just transplanted to a slightly different place and involving a couple less Nazis. But I mean, it's a big hit. But it is a big hit, and I do think that they're so good together in it.
Yeah.
There's very few of their pairings where they don't have it.
Yeah, I agree.
And she does have a great dance number in it, but that's par for the course when it comes to her.
Yeah.
I think we could have gotten along without that last remark, don't you?
I wouldn't want Mr. Fabian to spend a sleepless night.
All right, Steve. You've been saving it up for hours. Say it.
No, I'm waiting to hear how you'd say it.
You're a trusting soul, aren't you?
Not anymore, not after tonight. Why didn't you tell me you had a date with Fabian?
I meant to, but I forgot.
You forgot a lot of things. You forgot to tell me he was a friend of yours as well as Neil's. That he bought Neil's paintings. Did you also forget to tell me he bought Neil's wife?
For all of the hardships, and there are plenty at this time where she is suspended by Harry Cohn during the filming of the movie. The movies she's making are successful. She does Salome in 1953, which
by the way, I'm not correcting you. It's just you're pronouncing it the way they pronounce in the movie. It's Salome.
Salome.
That's how you say it. And I watched that entire movie and I was like, why do they keep saying Salome? They're like, Salome. And I was like, that is not how you say it.
Gavin, you are very mad about it.
I am.
All I could think of watching this movie was like, this is the movie that they're making in, what's that Coen's Brothers movie?
Yes. Wow. Podcast brain is far and abound in this. It's probably because we're both cooking at the moment.
I know.
But Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar. Yes.
I was like, they're making Salome in
You mean Salome?
yeah. That's the movie they're making in Hail Caesar. Beautiful gowns. Simple story. It's like a biblical story. And like
I fucking love Charles Lawton. Charles Lawton, you know, big Hollywood homo in a lavender marriage with beautiful Elsa Lanchester. So
yeah. Beautiful gowns. And she has a great song and dance number where she's like, well, you know what happens if you dance for him.
Yeah.
She's like, I know, I have to fuck him. Oh.
The 7 veils. She has to take them all off. I do want to just pause for a brief moment to say something that we haven't really talked about. I did bring up sort of very early on is she was incredibly shy throughout her entire life. And once again, it was one of those things where you put her on a stage, she was amazing. And I've seen bits and things, but I found a clip of her doing an interview around the time that this movie was out. And I just felt so bad for her because I just was like, she doesn't want to be doing that. Like, she doesn't. I think it was Ed Sullivan. And he's like, do you want to do the dance of the 7 veils? And she's like, and
she's like, stop talking, please.
Yes, exactly.
Now, what I thought, Rita, you might do tonight, we have Ray Bloch's band here. You have a big stage here. The whole world knows of your dancing prowess. But what I thought would be nice if you'd do the dance of the 7 veils.
Oh, but you know, I'd love to, but you see, I need marble halls, and I need the 7 veils.
Oh, I see. The Hollywood touches that we haven't got here.
It's sad that she was never really able to open up when she had the opportunity to.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing of like, the modern version of this is like, oh, if someone sees, a picture of you online and they think that you're hot, they think that they know you, they think that they know your personality, they think that they own you. And that was happening to Rita her entire career. People thought they knew who she was and thought, oh, well, she's dancing, quote unquote, suggestively. That means she wants to fuck, and fuck me specifically, and I'm going to ask her about it. And that's unwell behavior. If you see someone online that you think is cute, you could say, looking great, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Okay? Moving on. She, after Salome...
Salome.
She kind of takes another break because guess fucking what? She gets married again to Dick Hames, who's a famous Argentinian singer. The marriage was not good again. She, her stock is kind of falling finally. She does the movie Fire Down Below years later in 1957 with Jack Lemmon and Robert Mitchum. Her last musical is Pal Joey with fucking Frank Sinatra and Kim Novak. What a movie.
Yeah.
She gets, first of all, it's crazy because she's supposed to play this like old, like
has been like,
yeah. And literally Frank Sinatra is like 3 years older than her in this movie.
And the implication is also that she's like a former sex worker or former, like, because there's that whole, like, the lady is a tramp sequence.
Yeah. So Pal Joey is based on a Rodgers and Hart musicale. It's one of, I guess, like the lesser known, like lesser famous, but there are some beautiful numbers in the movie or in the musical. Like,
I mean, and once again, she's not singing them, but her doing Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered, and the way that it like is incorporated into the score is so haunting and beautiful. Yeah. And I didn't want that scene to end, I'll be perfectly honest, because she's like in her bedroom and like,
I know there was a revival on Broadway with Stockard Channing
Yes.
in that character. And there's like a bootleg version of her. And I was like, and Stockard sounds great. Of course she does. But the blocking is so, I had just seen the movie and like the blocking and the production is so sumptuous and amazing. And in this production, she's literally just like laying in bed, stroking fucking Joey's head. And I'm like, ugh, whatever. Let her live.
Famously, you know, the Frank Sinatra was the big star of the movie, as you mentioned, and so his name contractually was supposed to go above the credits, and he was like, "No, he's like, Rita Hayworth is Columbia.
Yeah,
put Rita Hayworth's name." And so every reporter was like, "Oh, what's it like being, you know, between Rita Hayworth and Kim Novak on the opening credits and on the poster?" And he's like, you know, I wouldn't want to be in any other sandwich than between these two.
Kim Novak, what a fucking star.
I mean, yeah, Kim Novak, though, that face, those eyes, that voice, that timbre. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, the last time my niece was in New York City, prior to just visiting me, the Museum of the Moving Image was showing Bell Book and Candle, which was one of my favorites when we did our Witches on Film episode. And just to take her to be able to see that on the big screen with Kim Novak. Ugh. Yeah.
And at the time, Kim Novak had become the #1 Columbia girl.
Yeah.
And so to have them both on screen with Frank Sinatra in this musical, I think, you know, the material isn't as good as them.
Yeah.
They lift up the material though. And I do think like the performances are very, very good. It's a very special production all around. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
You'd give a lot for a place like that, wouldn't you?
Anything. How about it? You and me could be partners.
What would I get out of it?
Name something.
There's nothing I don't have.
You want to bet? After all, 2 years is a long time between drinks. Oh, you can hit better than that, partner.
58, she does Separate Tables, which is a drama.
Yeah.
Very heartbreaking. It's one of those movies where like the song is like, ooh, we're sitting at separate tables.
I don't know how much you looked into the construction of Separate Tables, but Separate Tables is based on a play. Well, it's actually based on 2 plays. And what the movie does is it takes both plays and combines them together. And so Rita Hayworth is in this story with Burt Lancaster where they're ex-lovers and she's worried about getting old and he doesn't think he can settle with her. And then you have this other David Niven, Deborah Carr storyline where David Niven is literally a pervert running around feeling up women in theaters. And everybody's like, you know what? He may be a pervert, but he's our pervert.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And honestly, like, I will say this, the negative thing is Rita's in the more boring of the 2 stories.
100%.
And so when it's on stage, what it is the woman plays the woman. Rita Hayworth and Deborah Carr are played by the same actress on stage because it's 2 different plays separated by an intermission. And the man that does the David Niven part as well as the Burt Lancaster part, you know. And to me, it's like, yes, of course. Like when you do the play, you get this sort of tour de force of all these different emotions and whatnot. And in the movie, when it's separated up like that, it's kind of like, this is not as good as it could be.
Well, the movie, like the main character or like the thorough thing is that they're at this hotel.
Yes.
You know, and like, so it's almost it's more like, who are all these kooky booky people with their strange pasts at the hotel?
And in the play, like it's because it's also set in the hotel. Like it's the same people playing the same roles in both parts.
Gotcha.
Except for them, and so like that. But you're right. It is part of that. Like everybody's got their tawdry little quirk, but it is. I just think it's really funny that the movie treats like truly like just running around being a weirdo as like a quirk, like.
Right, yeah, and like all these like Christian women are there and they simply can't have. And isn't like the lady of the house like having an affair with like
Yes.
With Nivens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so and they have to vote whether he should stay or go.
I don't think it's bad. I know I just made it sound. No. I just when I was like, why is this movie like this? I was like, this feels tonally so back and forth. And I was like, oh, because it is. Like,
yeah. I mean, the more fun and exciting chapter is the pervert one. But I do think like the one about like these two lovers or ex-lovers is quite like tragique. It's obviously a lot more quiet.
What do you possibly do here?
I enjoy one great luxury, being left alone.
Well, it's a quaint spot you've picked out for yourself.
Yes, your last husband would have done wonders with this place. Interior decorator, wasn't he?
When he worked.
How long were you married to him?
2 years and 6 months.
Beats us by 3 months. Cruelty again, wasn't it?
A legal device.
You mean he didn't break down the bedroom door to get at you, huh?
No. He didn't try to kill me either.
It's so crazy, though, like the way we used to like behave with manners, and it's like no one's talking to the guy at breakfast, and then they're like, lovely day, isn't it? And it's like, oh my God, he talked to him.
How dare you? How dare you?
He talked to the pervert. We're kind of getting towards the end, though. You know, the story on page 1 in 1960, she worked in the 60s, but, you know, at the time, she like, what starts happening is her health is in decline. She starts acting strangely. People don't know what's wrong with her. They suspect, you know, she's had all these marriages, her star's falling. They are trying to paint this very simple picture of like, you know,
and I will say this, like, I don't want to paint her as completely innocent because she was also in the throes of an alcohol problem. Her daughter has attested to this, that she drank too much. Mm-hmm. Much like Orson Welles said, she would fly into rages. But the thing you're getting at too is that she's showing signs of early onset Alzheimer's and no one knows it at the time.
Correct.
It's so gross. Alzheimer's was discovered in 1906. 1906. And nobody cared about it because it was something that only happened to old people and poor people.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're going to get a little more into it, but I cannot, like, Rita Hayworth is literally the reason that we have, you know, so many Alzheimer's charities now. And so because she became the face of it, that's literally
crazy
60 years. 60 years. Like,
yeah. So let's see. 64. She does Money Trap. That was the last time with.
That's the last Glenn Ford. Yeah. So I guess it was 5 times. I didn't see Money Trap, so that was.
You know, her last film was The Wrath of God in 1972.
Which I just watched today.
She wanted to retire, but she needed the money.
Yeah.
And so she kept doing. And so she did The Wrath of God, even though she had wanted to retire. She's only 54, P.S.
Right. And like, listen, she does Wrath of God. She also does Circus World. You know, she's in these movies. I've never heard Robert Mitchum say a bad thing about her, but I do want to mention Circus World just from the fact that it was a movie with John Wayne. She was excited to do it because she'd never worked with him before. She couldn't remember her lines because she was, losing her short-term memory. Mm-hmm. And no one really knows what's going on. And John Wayne fucking hates her because of this. And instead of being like, this is somebody who needs help, he's just like, she's unprofessional.
Yep. Yeah. And the experience, doing both that and The Wrath of God was exposing her to, people who were unkind and not empathetic. And it also just exacerbated her mental state, She agreed to do one more movie, but because of her health, it was called Tales That Witness Madness. She had to leave and she didn't complete the film. In 1974, both of her brothers died within a week of each other. She, in 1976, she was removed from a flight after having an outburst with an agent. If you have ever been around someone with Alzheimer's, that is very common. Confusion is so common, and it's just like you think people are being belligerent, but they don't know where they are. They don't know their surroundings. This woman needed help. You know.
Anne Baxter said one of her first clues was, she had invited her to dinner, and she came over to Rita's house, and she answered the door with a butcher knife and was like, "Who are you?" Yeah. And Baxter was like, "I'm your friend. You invited me to dinner." And she's like, "No, you're a fan, and I'm not signing autographs. Go away." And then called her up later and was like, "Where were you?"
Yeah, horrible. By 1981, her health had deteriorated so badly, a judge ruled that she had to be under care by her daughter, Princess Yasmin, in New York. They lived together in an apartment, and when they asked Yasmin how her mom was doing, she said she's still beautiful, but she's a shell. She was no longer there.
Horrible. I'm not saying it's horrible that she said it. Like, it's horrible that she had to go through that.
Yeah, of course. Orson Welles later said, when he would visit, he'd say, "Rita barely knows me. Doesn't really recognize me."
Oh my God. He tells this story. He tells this horrible story of going to like some benefit and sitting with her and talking to her. And he knew in the first 4 minutes, she didn't know who he was. And he could see it wash over her after they'd been talking for a while, that she suddenly realized who he was, and she started crying.
Yeah. And she dies in 1985. She was really young. She died she was 68,
Yeah, that's too young.
Yeah. And she, for those last 15-ish years was suffering, did not have like really the proper care. And my God, like, and this is fucking Rita Hayworth, who has all the access to all the things. But yeah, Alzheimer's is a fucking horrible, horrible disease that my grandmother had Alzheimer's. It will touch a lot of us. So she died from complications from Alzheimer's in 1987. President Ronald Reagan, fuck him. He issued a statement saying, "Rita Hayworth was one of our country's most beloved stars, glamorous and talented. She gave us many wonderful moments on stage and screen and delighted audience from the time she was a young girl. In her later years, she became known for her struggle with Alzheimer's. Her courage and candor and that of her family were a great public service in bringing worldwide attention to a disease which all hope will soon be cured." It's wild. She was that big of a fucking star. I mean, obviously she was in Hollywood when Reagan was an actor. They were contemporaries, but like I said, she was so much bigger than the movies she made. She was a cultural figure. She was in magazines. She was in the cultural consciousness. And she still is to this day, I think the image of her flipping her hair will always be just like an immediate signifier for glamour and Hollywood. She's just a total film legend.
And listen, there were more husbands, but it's all sort of gossipy after that. Like after Ali Khan, by the way, I don't know if you read that, like, she was Catholic and the Pope called her marriage to Ali Khan illicit. She is. It's the hair flip that, she'll always be the icon. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just really quickly, the Rita Hayworth Gala, which is a benefit for Alzheimer's Association, is still held annually in Chicago and New York. It was founded by Princess Yasmin in the honor of her mother. As of 2017, they've raised over $70 million. So her legacy continues to this day. And like I said earlier, like there are so many documentaries and books about her and her life. If you really want to dig deeper, that stuff's out there. And her
Absolutely.
movies are out there too. So you should definitely give those a check or look into. But okay, Gavin, how about we get into our picks?
Absolutely. Why don't we do our 1-star reviews while we're a little bit down and get that out of the way first?
Okay, Gavin, you go first.
So I feel really bad about this because I know it was kind of a passion project of her. And listen, there's a lot of not great ones in here, I will say. We didn't even talk about the poppy is also a flower, which is it's like a huge budget television film essentially that she was in. But I think my 1-star review has to go to 1948's The Loves of Carmen. I understand Orson Welles being like, what if we made Carmen without the music from the opera? But Bizet's score is maybe one of the most famous bits of music.
Sure.
Yeah. I watched the fucking Super Mario Brothers movie with my nephew on Saturday, and they used Carmen in it.
Yes.
So there's a reason that exists. And I think that maybe the story itself isn't that good. She is a Roma woman, and I'm going to say Roma because this movie is very free with the use of the word gypsy.
Okay.
And essentially, Glenn Ford plays Don Jose, and he's a soldier, and he arrives in Seville to begin his service, and he meets this Roma woman who immediately steals his watch, and he's like, "Oh fuck, she got me! I am down bad." And he falls in love with her, and he's willing to do anything for her, and he literally ends up killing his commanding officer for her because his commanding officer is like, you're kind of spending too much time with this random woman who maybe doesn't even like you that much. And he's like, not true, stab, stab, stab. And they flee to the desert. And she's like, oh, totally my bad, Don Jose.
Yeah.
This is my husband. And her husband is a major criminal, and Don Jose becomes part of his gang. But he clearly still loves Carmen. And so him and Garcia are like, I guess we got to fight it out. And he kills Garcia. And she's like, bitch, I'm out. This is too much stabbing. And
she goes being really messy.
Yeah, she goes and she falls in love with a matador. And Don Jose's like, no. No.
You're like, wait, but I just killed that guy for you.
Yeah, I've killed 2 people for you. And she's like, bitch, you thought. And he's like, well, bitch, you thought. Ooh. And he stabs her and then gets shot. And they both die. And the end.
Spoiler alert, Gavin.
In this case, I don't care. It's Carmen. I think
people get it.
When you go to an opera, they give you a plot synopsis before you even sit down because they're like, listen, there's going to be a lot of singing. Why don't you just familiarize yourself with this?
What's going on?
It's a Charles Vider film, and Charles Vider is the guy that directed Gilda. So he knows what he's doing. He knows what a commodity he has in Rita Hayworth. He knows how beautiful she is. He knows how amazing, lots of dancing, lots of Spanish dances. But it's just, even at 97 minutes, it really drags. It feels really hollow. And earlier when I said Rita Hayworth and Glenn Ford have so much chemistry in most of the movies they're in.
Where to go?
Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about. There's nothing here. And so it really shocked me to find out this is the one where he knocked her up, because it's like, what was it all off screen? Was that what was happening? And I feel terrible being like, she produced it. She really wanted to do it, but it just wasn't good. It needed some outside perspective to be like, no. What are we doing here? We really need to fix this. I will give the one positive thing is I will say the music, which is by Castelnuovo Tedesco. I've never heard anything else by that. I actually didn't mind it. I was like, this is interesting. And it's nice to hear him try something so tonally different than what the opera does, but it just isn't there. So yeah, The Loves of Carmen, my 1-star review.
I don't know what's happened to me. Here I am, a deserter from the army, and the murder of my own colonel. I can't imagine how it happened. One minute I thought he was going to kill me, and the next minute there, my sword.
Don't think about it. You are here and I'm here. That's enough. Think about it that way. Just Carmen and Jose.
All to myself.
All to yourself.
It's so funny that you chose a film full of Spanish vibes and matadors, because my 1-star review is a movie we actually didn't mention, but a 1941 film called Blood and Sand.
Blood and Sand. Yeah.
Blood and Sand.
Where to begin?
It is a movie about how people are bad, and all we care about is entertainment. And that, in this movie, is murdering bulls, and how fame will get you, gal. It's Lady Gaga's The Fame Monster, if you're familiar. Juan Gallardo is a matador, and he wants to grow up and be a great matador just like his father, even though his mom is like, please, Juan, no. Your father got killed by the bull. I don't want you to. Meanwhile, he's got his little girlfriend, Encarnacion, and he's like, wait for me, girlie. I'm going to go off and become famous, and I'll come back for you. So he goes off, becomes famous, comes back. She's like, okay, hot. I'm still here waiting. They get married. He is the it boy matador. I will say this movie is beautiful gowns.
Yes.
Gorgeous looking. I don't know how the fuck they filmed any of the actual matador shit, because that man was in the ring.
I think they filmed a real matador.
Yeah, like those bulls were running, hun. Rita Hayworth plays Doña Sol, not unsimilar to the role of, is it Vera in Pal Joey?
Yes.
She is this alleged elder woman who has money, and she is the like Spanish girly, and so she says, oh, you're the most famous little matador? You are mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so
my favorite scene is he falls asleep while she plays Spanish guitar, and my favorite thing is she's moving her right hand to pretend to play the guitar. She not once, I rewound it, not once moves her left hand.
It's crazy.
And I was like, that's not how a guitar works.
It's crazy because like the camera did no favors. The camera's like zoom in on the hand. I'm like, why? She clearly isn't playing. She's doing her best. I will say this specifically to Rita, like I do think this is maybe her worst lip sync performance that I saw. It's just so clear she's uncomfortable carrying the guitar. It's all, the voice that they've dubbed over her in this movie is so obviously like not her. It's like a crazy match.
Yeah, it's like very deep and not.
Yeah, it's just it's just very clear. So Juan, fame gets too much. He's married to Encarnacion, but he's cheating on her. He's got like this brother-in-law, I think, and debts are piling up. He's nobody. He's scared out there. Basically, like because he's
not the little boy that got into the ring with a bull.
Yes, he's now. I will say there's some very aggressive Catholic imagery in this movie.
Yes.
And it's funny because like basically they're like, isn't it crazy? Catholics are so crazy and foreign and exotic. And like now it's like Catholics are like whatever.
Yeah, Catholics are like have a large majority.
Correct. a lot of people are Catholics, in fact. But like there's so much like crying Madonnas and like Jesus and all that, and because what happens to these poor men is they die, but people don't care because guess what? There's a hot new little matador in town, and he will be the greatest. He will be the first son of Spain.
There's another one just around the corner, baby. They're a dime a dozen.
And like it is kind of iconic at the end. It's like there's flowers being thrown onto the sand. They're cheering on this new matador, and then the camera pans, and it's blood. The end. I just, this movie fucking drags. It drags and drags. I don't think I think there is something, obviously here about consumption of people as commodities, and so that's all well and good. I just don't think that I don't think Rita's really deployed super well here. I think she's done this role better. I think she's better in Pal Joey doing this,
Yes. And here's the thing, it's a remake of a Valentino film. The Valentino film is better. And the Valentino film's 20 years before this.
Yeah. So
Tyrone Power, I thought, was actively bad in it as well.
As Juan.
Yeah.
Well, it is funny. So Rita was not the original choice to be Doña Sol. Carol Landis was the original choice, but she refused to dye her hair red.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? I will say it is a beautiful looking movie. Not as successful, as some of her others. It did make money. I think people were very taken by the bullfighting scenes.
Well, Loves of Carmen was a huge hit, was Columbia's biggest hit the year it came out. So I get it. She is a draw. And so even when it's bad, she's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I just think she was really miscast in Blood and Sand. And it's funny because she's able to play that conniving, there's that scene where she invites his girlfriend up to her house and she's like, okay, well, watch me kiss him.
Yeah. She's like, oh, are you worried? Well, hold on. And then she's like, Juan, and then he comes out and he's like, dip, 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 dip. And
just straight into a kiss.
Yeah. And she's like, gagged ya, huh?
That you've known a great many men. Go on. I've never been out of Andalusia. I speak only one language. And I've had only one man. Maybe that's why I want so much to keep him.
Tell me, have you discussed this with Juan?
No.
Why not?
It would hurt him.
Just a minute, please.
It's a little bit just not as clever as the other movies where she's being an actual femme fatale. This movie is just kind of really knocking it over the head, sin.
The one last thing I do want to say, and this has nothing to do with Rita Hayworth, is Laird Krieger is in this movie. He's the big guy that he beats up as a kid, and then I love him because I know him for playing the devil in the original Heaven Can Wait, which doesn't have anything to do with the Warren Beatty Heaven Can Wait, which is a remake of Here Comes Mr. Jordan, in which she was in the sequel of, called Down to Earth, which was the name of the remake of the 70s Heaven Can Wait starring Chris Rock.
I just had a fucking aneurysm, Gavin. I'm so sorry, sweetie. I'm about to fucking go to heaven. Heaven cannot wait for me.
All right. Well, then let me drive this ambulance into our 5-star reviews because I need you to finish this before you bleed out.
Okay, Gavin, tell everyone why Salome is your 5-star review.
Salome? I didn't love Salome. Salome. I think, and it's a little bit of cheating, and I will say this, unpopular opinion, I don't love this movie. So I'm actually going to do something that's sort of unprecedented for me.
Wow.
I think she's so fucking good in Gilda.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason. And I know it's sort of, whether she liked it or not, haunted her career. But she literally burns the fucking screen. Yeah. I am shocked that Nitrate Prince didn't just explode the first time she came on And so it's, you know, we talked about it before, you know, she's married to a mobster. Her former husband comes in. I hate the plot of this movie. I'll be perfectly honest. When it gets to the end and like they think he's dead and he has like maybe faked his death.
No, he has faked his death.
He has faked his death. I just was trying not to give it away, but he has faked his death.
Oh, what's funny is like I've never seen a movie like give its own spoiler.
Pull the card so soon. Like he's like basically watching his own like plane burn. Like
he goes into the ocean and they're like, wow, I guess he's dead. The next scene is him being like, well, I did it. I faked my own death. I was like, oh, y'all really want us to know that he will be coming back.
Yes. And then he does it until the very last reel. They're
Correct.
But that whole section afterwards, when it's Glenn Ford and she's like left again and he's like hired people to track her down to like seduce her and bring her back to him.
Yeah.
I hate that. I really don't like, you know, there's this thing, there's obviously like a lot of chemistry between her and Glenn Ford, except for in The Loves of Carmen. But he has to hit her in every movie they're in, it feels like. And I know it was a different time, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, stop.
There's a fucking crazy line in this movie where it's like, where he meets her, like you think they've met for the first time, and he's like, what'd you think of my wife? And he's like, I wanted to go up there and hit her. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what?
And so like, there's a lot in this movie that truly turns me off. But like, she herself, I can't think of a better role. She's so good. And I rewatched it today for the first time in like 15 years, like I said. And that scene where she's like, I hate you so much. I hate you more than anything in the world. Put your fucking tongue in my mouth. Like, I just like, it's so good.
You do hate me, don't you, Johnny?
I don't think you have any idea how much.
Hate is a very exciting emotion. Haven't you noticed? Very exciting. I hate you too, Johnny. I hate you so much that I think I'm going to die from it. Darling.
It's so hot, and her dance numbers. This is where she's really the lip sync. She is lip syncing the House Down Boots. She is, you know, putting the blame on Maine. She's doing Otto Mio. Like, it's not missing a syllable. She is 100% Coco Montrese, pointing at her lips, doing every Paula Abdul lyric.
Yeah, and moving like Paula Abdul too. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Truly an amazing movie. Gilda, 1946. Truly an amazing performance, I will say. The movie, I can give or take, but it's worth watching for her. And I think that's honestly where... So, you know, 5-star review for her. Maybe 3-star review for the movie.
Is that because of the tungsten monopoly plot?
Yeah, of course.
and they're like... Did you know having a monopoly on the world's resources can make you a very powerful man?
There was, what was it? There was something else about this movie that I wanted to say, and now I can't remember. But yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, Gilda's my pick too. I mean, she is good in a lot of movies, but like the way that she is able to. Sometimes I think like, you know, there are roles where it's like femme fatales who are just pure bitchy or pure bad behavior. She is able to go back and forth between like, this is a woman who is actually supremely hurt. This is a woman who is fighting to survive, doing what she has to do. And she has that line where she's like, you would have thought like, what'd she say? You think it'd be possible to marry 2 crazy men in one lifetime, but here I am, you know, and because she thinks, I mean, it's honestly so tragic. A big part of this movie is her husband dies, quote unquote, and so she finally gets to marry the Glenn Ford's character, they actually get to have it all. They're married, they have money, they have all the things, and she thinks, okay, it's fine, like we're finally through it. And he says, nope, you fucking hurt me, and I'm about to fucking hurt you back.
Yeah.
And so
he's so petty, and it's so funny because, we keep saying femme fatale, but she's not really a traditional femme fatale in this movie, because her goal is not to
kill anyone.
Yeah, to kill anyone, to set out and harass, to like really hurt anybody. I mean, she may be a little selfish, but she's in a time in which women can't really afford to be selfish. So like,
right.
It's like a luxury that she gets to be selfish.
Right. The original sin is that she breaks this man's heart and leaves New York to go to Argentina.
Yeah. He's kind of a fuckboy. Like,
yeah. And I mean, he's a big part of this movie is also like, you create your own luck. You make your own luck. So, and what that means is, LOL, you're a cheater. You cheat. And so she's creating her own luck by going to Argentina to find someone who they fight over, like, imagine being down in the dumps. What does that look like? Because these are both people who are scratching and clawing their way to exist, to continue their existence, and running over whoever is in their way to get to it. But finally, there's a way for them to be together, and they are together. But he is so, broken and petty and, awful that he gets her and continues to punish her.
Yeah.
He's like, he says something like, she didn't know it yet, but Argentina would be her prison. And she like has to resort to, doing these numbers, and she's like, yeah, now everyone knows what kind of girl got you. And then he fucking hits her because she did this like sexy dance number in front of all these men. And it's, and like I said, like there's it's hard to watch, but also it's like the things that people do to each other because of heartbreak is so, I mean, and that shit's fucking real. That happens today. Yeah. People today cannot let go, forgive. And yeah, this movie is just like that back and forth over and over again. But she's so good. She's sympathetic. She is sexy. She, is strong. She's broken. She's so many things. It is just crazy. It's crazy how good she is in this.
It's funny, just to take it away from her really briefly, and if you don't want to be spoiled for the ending of Gilda, please skip ahead about 2 minutes. I will say, this is like one of the few film noirs that ends with a happy ending, and it's the worst possible scenario because they end up together. And they shouldn't end up together.
Right. I mean, well, the thing is, like, he's back.
Hurt people.
Yeah.
They're going to hurt each other again.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the ex-husband is actually back. There's something about contracts, and, like, Germans are also involved. It's very, like, to Gavin's point, like, the plot is a little wibbly-wobbly outside of these two people who want to continue hurting each other. The whole, like, tungsten monopoly and contract and, like...
It's a red herring, kind of, like...
Yeah, but I don't think this movie sticks to landing, but she and Glenn Ford, honestly, like, I mean, because he's terrifying in this movie,
Yeah, truly.
And so on the power of both of their performances, it's just like, fuck, stardom, like Hollywood, glamour, everything. I mean, I there are pictures of this movie in color, and it's shocking how gorgeous, like, everything looks. And I can only imagine, if this was in color, because there is no color version of this movie, correct?
No, I'm sure there's a colorized version of this movie, but there was no shot in color.
Like, literally, look, I'm going to share this really quickly. Like, hello?
Yeah.
Like, are you...
Stunning.
This couch is stunning.
That dress, like, went up for auction a couple years ago, and I more than a couple of years ago, like, I want to say like a decade ago, maybe. And it sold for something like, in 2014, it sold for $161,000, which is about $199,000 in today's money.
Yeah, worth every penny.
yeah, she looks amazing. All right. Was there anything else that you saw that you particularly like? I mean, obviously we talked about Pal Joey. We both really liked Pal Joey.
Pal Joey, again, I think it is the far superior version of her playing Doña Sol in Blood and Sand. I also think, again, like Strawberry Blonde, early in her career, so good, so funny.
I will second Strawberry Blonde, absolutely.
I like my Rita funny. Another cute little down to earth. Cute cover girl, just for the beauty.
Cover girl is definitely, and like I said, you know, people talk about Singing in the Rain being one of the greatest movies ever made. It's literally like watching like the blueprint for that movie being devised. So it's a really cool, besides being entertaining and fun and silly, like it's just a cool artifact almost.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's do our mixed reviews review.
My 1-star review was 1948's The Loves of Carmen.
My 1-star review is 1941's Blood and Sand.
And our joint 5-star review was 1946's Gilda.
Gilda. All right, let's get into our fast forward.
Rita has passed.
Rita has passed, yes.
Yeah.
She has 2 daughters, correct?
Yes, Rebecca Wells.
I think Rebecca Wells is also dead. Yeah. Her daughter died in 2004. Which is a fucking bummer. Because she was not that old then.
Her other daughter, Yasmin Aga Khan, she still does philanthropy for Alzheimer's. She currently lives in Switzerland. She's 73. Yeah, I think Rita Hayworth's legacy will always be that sort of love goddess, will always be that beauty, the way that she moved her body, the way that she could light up the screen like no other. I'm assuming one of the documentaries you watched is the one that was narrated by Kim Basinger.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all those like clips of Nicole Kidman talking about her, and it's really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that, she made a huge mark on what the bombshell could be. We've done Marilyn before on the show, and she's, the next era of bombshells. But I think Rita Hayworth really symbolized, both a very sexy, naughty, but also very chaste and beautiful and sweet version of this that was palatable to both the audiences of the time, but also just, society in general.
Yeah, and it's also, but the wild thing is, like, she's a natural star, but, like, there is so much artifice that she had to perform and become to be this all-American girl, quote unquote, which is so wild. I remember we were talking about who we wanted to do, and I said, a lot of people didn't know that Rita Hayworth came from an immigrant family,
right.
And her last name was not Hayworth, it was Cancino. And what she had to give up for herself to become Rita Hayworth. And then she just kept giving. She kept giving, and people kept taking. And, and then when she got sick, people didn't give a fuck. And, and it's, yeah, her legacy, though, is, you mentioned Nicole Kidman, and we have a whole generation of stars who, will do the Rita Hayworth drag for a little bit, like, Nicole in Moulin Rouge,
Yeah.
Renee
Nicole
Zellweger
in Batman Forever.
Yeah. She flips that goddamn hair.
Yeah.
Renee Zellweger in Chicago, we have a generation of actresses who, there certainly are singer, dancer actors. Most recently, our new West Side Story girly, Ariana DeVos, kind of is in that same realm of, like, these are women who are in command of their bodies, who are able to be funny, sexy, beautiful. That we are just, like, in awe of their presence. I always say this, but I always think about it. When there are certain stars, especially women, on the screen, and I'm like, my God, now I know why. We've talked about Anne Hathaway before on this show. And it's like, yeah, they just fucking have it. They just fucking have it. Anne Hathaway put on her Rita Hayworth drag when she did Les Mis,
Yeah.
It's, they there is just something so baked into the DNA, and you know, we always love doing these old Hollywood episodes, just because, like you said, we have cultural blind spots, and just to appreciate the beauty, because there's so much beauty, but also like the price of that beauty, because she had a very tough life, but luckily, like, her legacy will be that beauty, and will be like these wonderful pieces of film, and you know, bringing to light, you know, Alzheimer's and how horrible that can be, and raising money for that. So like, God bless. Rita was one of the fucking greats. Like, we've had many wonderful actresses come through, but like, I just don't know if like we'll ever get someone like that in Gilda.
No,
ever again.
And it's wild to me because it feels like I didn't know.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if I didn't know,
if you didn't know, who would know? But now, yeah, I mean, seriously, for everyone out there, like, if you're wanting an accessible, you know, way into old Hollywood, like a couple of movies that me and Gavin mentioned are certainly, you know, I mean, God, the Strawberry Blonde, is basically a Kate Hudson film, like, so definitely recommend checking out Miss Rita Hayworth and seeing for your own two eyes, like, the true star wattage and power of just like how they fucking used to make stars. They don't make them like they used to.
Absolutely.
But remember, like, they truly did make them. And
they physically made them, and that's not great.
and that's fucking crazy. But yeah, I guess that wraps up Rita Hayworth.
And what a true icon she is. And if you ever want to drop us a line, you can always find us on Twitter. We're still going to call it Twitter, at the Mixed Reviews. Well, it's still up, and while it's not a Nazi playground.
You can also find us on Facebook. Just type in the Mixed Reviews.
You can always email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're on Instagram at _mix_reviews.
And we are on a plethora of podcast apps if you want to listen to our back catalog like you just listened to this episode. Also, make sure you stop by and leave a 5-star rating and write a little review. And if you leave us a positive review, we'll read it on the show. It's lovely. You can literally write whatever you want. You could do 5 stars and then write tomato.
If you are building an atom bomb, you can put our faces on that atom bomb, okay?
This is our Oppenheimer.
Yeah, honey. Yeah, so we will see you all in a couple of weeks on our next episode. I hope you all are having a lovely summer. Get
Please
your Barbenheimer.
Stay cool.
Get your Barbenheimer on. And until then, bye.
Bye-bye.
Uphill he is, but still he is all mine. And I'll keep him until he is bewitched, bothered, and bewildered like me.